Hello, and it's time for Wednesday Warfare, where I review NXT and AEW Dynamite back-to-back and try and figure out which show won for the week. As I say every week on this segment, when I remember to, like what you like, don't be a dick. Let's begin. NXT begins the tag title match as Matt Riddle and Timothy Thatcher defend against Eichner and Bartel of Imperium. Lots of great catch wrestling early on between T-Thatch and Bartel. Near the end, though, Riddle is the legal man, and he flips Bartel off his shoulders, and Bartel basically flips into Timothy Thatcher on the apron. And at this point, Thatcher says enough's enough, and he gets down off the apron and walks away and abandons Riddle. And so then afterward, Riddle tries to fight very valiantly to defend the championships by himself, but he falls to the European Bomb, and so now Imperium are the new NXT Tag Team Champions. They have those belts, and they've got the NXT UK Championship with Walter as the champion. Then afterward, we see Thatcher cutting a promo backstage saying he's had enough of Riddle's antics, calls him a hot mess. Riddle gets in there, they have a shoving match, and then later still tonight, we see Riddle wrapping up a video chat with William Regal, and he says he's just got a match made official between he and Thatcher for later in the night. Then right afterward, Thatcher decks him in the head, throws a TV monitor at him, and that sets up the main event. I'm excited for this. I like to see these two fight each other, and the main event, I think, confirms that, but I was surprised they went with a breakup angle this early in their run, and also I felt it was kind of premature in the sense that we didn't really get a natural build to this. I never once in the last few weeks got the idea that Riddle was impatient with, or that Thatcher was impatient with Riddle to the point where he was ready to just break off from him. Like, we saw him kind of give the steely gaze and stuff, kind of looking at Riddle like, look at this fucking asshole being silly with the newly bro game and everything. But I never thought that was like going to precipitate to a walkout, especially in a move where that wasn't Riddle's fault. Like, it was Bartel who collided with Thatcher on the apron. It wasn't Riddle who did anything. So I thought that was kind of a bit confusing, but I'm liking this idea because I'm hopeful before going into the match that, I've seen Thatcher as a face, I've seen him as a heel. I think he's much better and more vicious as a heel, so we'll see how this pans out in their matchup. Tegan Nox takes on Indy Hartwell in singles action. Impressive Indy Hartwell, that is. They're really hitting you over the head from the beginning with the impressive moniker and everything, even in the opening lockup, and they push off and Indy goes, "You're not impressive." Frankly, I'm not impressed. Anyway, the match itself, though, was good. A good little match, very competitive, and they both looked good here. Tegan hits the choke slam. Indy doesn't get quite enough height on that one, though, I think. And then in the end, Tegan wins with the shiniest wizard. My favorite part about this thing at the very end, though, Morrow calls Tegan the Captain America of NXT. She's wearing a Captain Marvel gimmick in the ring. We get a backstage promo from Rhea Ripley where she says, she's disgusted that Charlotte Flair is the women's champion. She doesn't care if she has to beat Io Shirai to get another shot, but she will do what she has to do to get a rematch with Charlotte. We then go to our next Cruiserweight title tournament matchup as Jake Atlas takes on Tony Nese. I like the passionate pre-match promo by Atlas here, where he kind of like plays both sides, where he gets himself over, saying he really hopes to win, and then he also hopes that Drake Maverick wins his next match next week and to force a tie, because if they both win, they'll both be 2-1. The match itself, I don't have much to say about it or big takeaways. Compared to last week, the Atlas Kushida match that I kind of gushed over, as short as that was, very exciting. This one, a little less remarkable, but I still like Atlas winning with the Rainbow DDT is the name for it now. So he beats Tony Nese, and so Nese is winless in the tournament. In a very timely and relevant piece of media, the Undisputed Era have a Zoom chat together, and this basically plays out like a standard Undisputed Era group promo, but only now they're just all talking over each other because of the lag and everything, and it was kind of unbearable to get through. I don't generally like the group promos they had backstage as a rule, but now in this format I liked it even less. But the whole gist of it is they all decide that Roderick Strong will take on Dexter Lumis and teach him a lesson and everything. And my favorite part is they all sign off by doing the hand gesture, the Undisputed, I can't do it, the Undisputed Era hand gesture together, because that's what friends do. My question is, when they're all doing this though, who's the first one to actually leave the meeting and go, okay, I gotta lean in and click the end meeting button? We get a pretty cool promo package with Dakota Kai where she explains of the resentment she felt during her rehab from knee surgery and how Tegan Nox is getting all the glory and how her career has vastly improved since turning on Tegan at War Games last year. And she talks about her cool motorcycle riding friend Raquel Gonzalez and how they get along well because they're both outcasts and they're putting the women's division on notice. I did like this promo. I did a lot more, a very good job fleshing out more of Dakota's character right now. Then we see a promo with Isaiah Swerve Scott. What does he need to do to advance through the tournament? He needs confidence. And he makes a bit of a remark toward guys like Jack Gallagher and Tony Nese, where he says, if I went through the whole tournament and didn't win a single match, I would quit wrestling. And he says he will beat Gallagher later tonight. Triple H, Road Dogg, and Shawn Michaels have a big announcement regarding Takeover. It's going to be happening on June 7th, and the theme will be In Your House. They say, well, you know, this year is the 25th anniversary of the first In Your House pay-per-view, and a lot of the fans are spending a lot of time in their houses, so let's do In Your House. And they have the Takeover logo with like the In Your House like logo iconography on top of it, and the banter between the three guys is pretty funny as well. More self-deprecating humor for Triple H regarding his hog pen match with Henry Godwin. It's fun news. I like how they incorporate the original logo with Takeover and everything. But if they don't use the big White House set from the original, then what's even the point? In a grudge match stemming from last week, we see Finn Balor taking on Cameron Grimes. Last week, Grimes was talking a bit too much mess about Finn Balor, and the Prince didn't take too kindly to that. Lots of big stomps and kicks in this matchup here. At one point, Grimes makes good his word from last week, and he slaps the taste out of Finn's mouth. As Finn has things well in hand, though, Damian Priest shows up in the crowd, I guess behind the barricades, what we'll call it. Anyway, in the distraction, though, Balor hits him with a sling blade, and then when the referee's not looking, Priest hits him in the leg with a big nightstick. Grimes hits the cave-in to win the match, so big-time upset against the former NXT champion here. Then afterward, Priest pins down Finn by the neck with the bottom of the steel chair and basically reveals that he was the one who attacked him in the locker room a few weeks ago, which surprised me because I was assuming it was going to be something Imperium-related, but in a bit of a twist here, it's Damian Priest, who's always getting himself in a lot of trouble these days. He got into it with Dijakovic and Keith Lee, and now he set his sights on Finn Balor. So it's a good little match here because, I mean, the match itself was good. Grimes getting over is good for him. It won't hurt Finn any, and it sets up the feud between, the program at least, between Finn and Damian Priest. Your next interim Cruiserweight title tournament match sees Isaiah Swerve Scott taking on Jack Gallagher. Before the bell rings, though, Tony Nese comes out and jumps Swerve from behind and hits him real good, taking umbrage to the comments that Swerve made earlier in that promo about not winning any of the tournament matches. It's a pretty short match, and it's fairly one-sided toward Gallagher here. Swerve gets a couple of moments to shine or have some hope, but Gallagher wins with a spinning elbow, and plays spoiler here. He and Tony Nese are mathematically eliminated from the tournament or advancing, but with Gallagher winning, he also spoils Swerve's chances. I thought it was a good little wrinkle. I don't think we've seen Swerve in any kind of actual storyline or program since he's debuted at NXT, as far as I can recall. I mean, he was part of the breakout tournament last year, and then he's just been kind of like there. He's been impressive. He's been cutting good promos and everything, but I don't think I've seen him in one really outstanding or memorable like multi-week feud. So something with him versus Nese and Gallagher as a unit might be something fun to do down the line, or as the fallback from this. But so it was good to see a little storyline and progression there, and planting the seeds in that promo Swerve had earlier in the day, coming back to haunt him here. Caden Carter taking on Aaliyah up next. Probably the most competitive Aaliyah match I've seen in quite some time, if not ever. As the match goes on, Robert Stone of the Robert Stone brand shows up to kind of scout some talent here. We saw some interaction between he and Aaliyah last week, so maybe he's kind of doing some more research here. Aaliyah sees him and wants to really impress him, so she goes for she tries to do a more devastating top rope move, but Carter cuts her off, makes her submit here, and then Stone is very unimpressed by what he sees. We're back to having dinner with the Garganos, and Johnny and Candice doing a real good job putting over themselves about how good they've been doing since they turned evil a few weeks ago. Johnny's watching footage of him beating Dijakovic from last week, or as he called him, Dominic Dijagufovic or something, and then they do the same thing they did a few weeks ago when they first did this dinner promo, where they'll be all happy and stuff, then turn to the camera and it gets black and white and they're really evil and the dark souls are exposed and everything, and we cut back to normal. Like, I don't know how to feel about that. I feel like that was better reserved for like the first promo they did like this, but now they're making it kind of a thing. And I'm kind of on the fence about it because I like the whole idea of like a dual personality, or like they're at war with themselves. Again, the dark motives are finally exposed. But I'm almost like pick a lane, because I think you can either be kind of like the self-serving, as like, oh, we're so great, that we're kind of doing our own thing now, kind of, laissez-faire kind of attitude, or not caring what other people think kind of characters. But then they do this whole like, ooh, we're sinister, we're going to take what we want. I don't know. I think maybe I'd stomach it a little bit better if every time they went to black and white, you didn't hear this sound effect as they made the transition. It just seemed kind of hokey to me when they did that. Main event time, Timothy Thatcher versus Matt Riddle in singles action. These guys have a lot of history together in the independents before this matchup here, and their chemistry shows. We see lots of catch, we see lots of graps. I like this match because it's about as close as you could get to seeing Matt Riddle fighting his stylistic equal, or the closest you could possibly get to it. These two have really good chemistry, like I said. Riddle gets caught in a leg bar, and Thatcher's working the ankle all match. Ultimately, though, Riddle is able to roll up Thatcher out of the hold, stacks him up, and pins him to win. But then after the match, though, Thatcher just won't have any of it, and he keeps beating on Riddle, puts him in the armbar multiple times as we fade to black. So we're seeing this shot of Thatcher just going nuts here. You see his eyes bugging out and his teeth showing, and yeah, we give him the armbar as we fade to black. The little arc was nice to see. I still think the breakup was premature, and the actions that led to it kind of came out of nowhere. That being said, the match that these two had was great. Like, the build-up they had after the tag title match was very compelling as well. And like I said going into it, and I was kind of proven correct when I watched this, Thatcher is much more fun to watch as a heel than as a babyface. As brief as it was here with his run with Riddle, there's a part of me though that wants to see, like, let's put Malcolm Bivens back together with Thatcher, because they have a history. All three of them have history together. So yeah, let's bring some of that back from Evolve. Dynamite begins this week with Lance Archer again beating up some poor bastard on his way to the ring. If an AEW video game does come out and Archer's entrance just doesn't have that as standard, him just beating up some random like CPU character during the entrance, I'll be very disappointed. Jake Roberts on the microphone saying, he'll give Brandy Rose an apology when she kisses his ass. Very like, I got some Jeff Jarrett from 1999 vibes in this promo, saying, when he says women should be at the home making babies and making food and everything like that. And he also suggests in the promo that watching Lance Archer beat people up turns him on. As he's cutting the promo, though, we hear some engine revving, and we see Cody on the outside of the arena in his big Ford F-150, and he's revving the engine, and he guns the motor, and he drives 10 feet to gently bump into a barricade. Why? Why did you do that? That seemed like such a waste of the trope to have the truck running in and everything, and it accomplished nothing. I couldn't help but laugh when I saw that. You know what it reminded me of was, I think, the second episode of Dynamite they ever did. I said Impact, but no. Second episode of Dynamite they ever did, where like there's all these run-ins happening one after another, and Cody's run-in is like the blackout with the lights, and it comes back up to him in the ring. But that's not even the last run-in the segment. Like, we get two more after that. So like, you kind of kill the magic of like the impact of that kind of that trope where you've got the big truck run in or the big blackout, and it's like that's all you get out of it. It seems like a waste. Anyway, the two of them have a big fight, and they're both going for their finishers, but they're able to get out of them. So then like Jake calls off the fight, has Archer retreat and everything. I thought that the brawl itself was fine, and the segment, the promo that led to it was like, okay, Jake's cutting the heel promo and everything. And then, yeah, like the only thing that turned me off to that was just the truck. I just thought it was really silly being there. We get a nice little recap of the tag scene as of now in AEW. Very similar vibes to what they did with the women's division package they had last week on the show. In our next match, we see Jurassic Express versus the Best Friends, and you could get an idea of like, if you know these two teams, you know what you're getting into with this one. Lots of like big, high-flying spots, very death-defying stuff. A lot of big impact in their moves. It is very fast-paced as well. Near the end, though, Orange Cassidy is on stage cheering on Trent, and out of nowhere, Phoenix with the damnedest kick to the head I've ever seen. Like, it looked like it killed Orange Cassidy, the way he just took that in his head. His head went this way, and his body stayed like here for a split second. It looked really bad. But then afterward, in the chaos, MJF attacks Jungle Boy on the outside. They're going to be fighting at Double or Nothing, so it builds toward that. And then Chucky T hits the Awful Waffle on Jungle Boy to win. Then right afterward, Wardlow hucks Marco Stunt into the barricade. So more heat for the returning MJF and his big muscle Wardlow. The match itself was fine. I think the biggest takeaway for me, though, was less the match and more that ridiculous kick that Phoenix gave Orange Cassidy. Outside the arena, Alex Marvez wants a word with the champ, Jon Moxley, but Moxley is having none of it. Our next match is a women's fatal four-way. You got Hikaru Shida, Chris Statlander, Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, and Penelope Ford, who's accompanied by Kip Sabian, who she has hop over the barricade to join him in the matchup here. A great moment early on when Chris deadlifts Britt Baker from the mat, and Britt wants to boop her to kind of show solidarity, but it's not working for Chris here. Everyone has a good run here. Chris looks good, showing off the power here. Baker and Shida also get some good runs. I think Penelope Ford, like, this is one of her like lesser matches, I feel, compared to everyone else here. Bit of a hiccup later on in the match where I think they're all trying to figure out who's doing what move next, like in the middle of the matchup here. Ford damn near murders Chris with a poison Rana. It was a scary landing for both ladies, but more Chris than anything. Then Britt gets Statlander in the lockjaw on the outside, and then Shida hits a ridiculous backbreaker and a flying knee to Ford to win the match. A wild match. Everyone pretty much looks good here. And then we find out that Shida will finally get to face Nyla Rose for the Women's Championship at Double or Nothing, which is good because I feel that Shida's been the number one contender. They said for 11 weeks she's been number one contender. And obviously COVID slowed down a lot of progress for things, so I get that, but feels like this is a long time coming here. We see also later on the show, we see like a backstage interview with Shida where she explains she wants to beat Nyla, and Nyla shows up and just dinks her in the head with a kendo stick. So I found your kendo stick, bitch. And so that helps kind of set up more of the heat between these two. Shug D, aka Pineapple Pete, cuts a promo on Chris Jericho, and he says he doesn't throw shapes, he throws hands. There'll be no more insults tonight. We'll go to our next match here. Santana and Ortiz take on Kenny Omega and Broken Matt Hardy. It's a follow-up to last week when during the street fight, Proud and Powerful interfered on behalf of Jericho and Sammy Guevara. Kenny's worked over for most of the match here. We get 2 hot tags for Matt Hardy where he gets 1 hot tag, boom, 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 boom. Kenny's back in here and he's immediately just trounced upon again until Matt again tags in there. But it's a very competitive match here. At one point in the match near the end, Sammy Guevara limping into the ring with a neck brace and a chair, but the chair shot goes nowhere. Twist of fate by Hardy and a great bump by Sammy. Another twist of fate to Santana, and that's how he and Omega win the match. Backstage, Taz still trying to give advice to Darby Allin here, but in a very backhanded way. He busts Darby's balls over how he lost to Cody in that match a couple weeks ago for the tournament, and Darby still resistant to Taz's attempted guidance. I wonder where this leads to. Like, is Taz going to make his way to being some kind of manager position as well? Like, either for Darby, that's a weird pairing, or would they put Taz with another kind of bruiser, kind of like his relationship with Samoa Joe many years ago in Impact? I'm wondering, like, what's this going to lead to here? MJF finally back from his devastating hangnail injury and then his nicked neck as he goes one-on-one with Lee Johnson. There's some jaw-jacking outside the ring at one point with Colt Cabana, who, by the way, excellent choice on Colt for wearing the Hatchet Man jersey. I wonder if they're going to find some opportunity with both of them in the company to recreate the father and son dynamic they had in like AAW before MJF got signed. Anyway, MJF easily wins with the armbar. Afterward, cuts a promo on Jungle Boy and says he's going to get a tune-up match with fellow Jurassic Express member Marco Stunt next week. So what we saw at the end of that match with Wardlow chucking Marco into the barricade helped set more of that dynamic up as well. Well, after weeks of talking trash about him on commentary, those Nightmare Factory shows, Chris Jericho finally goes one-on-one with Pineapple Pete. The match begins and Pete's got a very fiery opening salvo, lots of big hits and everything, but he walks into a single Judas effect and that's the match. Easy payday for both men, and good on Shug D, good on Pineapple Pete for getting this opportunity with Jericho here. Not everybody gets a chance to do that, so that was pretty cool to see. Then afterward, Jericho on the microphone, and he challenges the Elite to a Stadium Stampede match at Double or Nothing, which sounds like an empty arena match, but in the football field, in the arena where the Jaguars play. That sounds like it could be very ridiculous, and I'm all for that. But then as he's talking, Vanguard 1 flies in, and Jericho talking to Vanguard 1 as if he's a person, and he asks him to speak for the Elite, and he puts the microphone in Vanguard's face, and we get that first-person perspective, and it says, "We accept." So yes, the drone is still very sentient in this universe. And then finally Jericho with his aluminum bat starts beating up the hell out of Vanguard 1, bashing him to bits. And the best part is the Inner Circle, after they're done, all yell at Vanguard 1, again, as if he is a person, which is just, it's a great bit of levity here. And they're super badass heels. They're like these evil heels, and they're talking trash to a broken drone, a dilapidated drone, if you will. In comes Matt Hardy, and like the Inner Circle leave as Hardy like cradles the broken bits of the drone in his arms. Oh, those nasty heels. Like, it was very on brand, I think, for this feud right now, and continuing the epic battle between Jericho and a drone. And yeah, but I'm still thinking about that Stadium Stampede match, and they're gonna have a whole 100-yard field and all those empty seats to work with. Like, How are they going to do? What are they going to do with that one? I think I want to see like the revenge of I want to see the Vanguard family come flying in to try and exact some revenge here. Will we see fireworks on the level of like the Hardy compound stuff in that one? Will the cons allow it? Time will tell. They announced that Mike Tyson will present the TNT Championship at Double or Nothing. So another coup for AEW to secure a WWE Hall of Famer for a belt presentation here. We saw that last year with Bret Hart at Double or Nothing. And then in our main event, Christopher Daniels takes on the Exalted One, Brody Lee, who demands he be referred to as the self-proclaimed AEW champion, coming out wearing Jon Moxley's purloined world title there. Lee just has his way with Daniels for the bulk of the match here. Ultimately, Chris makes a big comeback, and then the Minions get involved. SCU and Colt Cabana get in there to try and fight them off. The match continues. Daniels hits a Angel's Wings and a BME, but Brody still kicks out. Discus Lariat, and Lee wins the matchup here. And then afterward, Jon Moxley shows up, and he cleans house. Brody sacrifices one of his minions toward Moxley as he makes his escape with the belt and with 10, his minion du jour here. And then Moxley on the microphone promises a hailstorm of violence and says, oh boy, Brody Lee is going to get his at Double or Nothing. And that's where we end the show. Time now for me to decide which show won for the week, NXT or AEW Dynamite. And this week my choice is going to be NXT. Call me a little bit biased, but I thought it was great to see Timothy Thatcher get a real chance to shine on this week's show. I still think the breakup between he and Matt was a little premature, and his motives behind the breakup were a little bit questionable, or a little bit undercooked I'd say. But be as it may, I still think that Thatcher getting that time at all those segments to really get over how vicious he can be, I thought it was really great for him and his character. I think even in defeat, he still did very good against Matt Riddle in the end. Dynamite is still a very entertaining show. Nothing seriously wrong with it, but I did laugh a lot at the Cody truck spot there. But NXT just made me a little bit happier this week. But what did you think about AEW and NXT this week? Let me know in the comment section below, and be sure to vote which show you thought was better by going to the iCard in the corner of your screen. I'm Brian Zane, and I'll see you next time.